Hi, Matt. How are
Hey,
you?
doing well, Christine. How are you?
Good, good, good. Thank you so
Good.
much for joining me in this live stream. So I'm
Oh
also
my,
honored. This is like your first time being on LinkedIn Live, right? So
it is. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
excited
yeah.
about it.
Cool, cool. Okay, tell why don't we start by you introducing yourself and tell us more about your designation there, RICP, CFP.
Yeah,
Well, we all know what CFP means, but why don't you introduce yourself and then what
sure.
you specialize in and your designations?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Matt Henn. I'm a wealth advisor with Beacon Point Advisors here in Newport Beach. I've been in financial services for, wow, since 2008 when I was an intern at Morgan Stanley and have,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's my only, I've only been in financial services. We work with high earners, and that has kind of grown into more specific to people in the um,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare specialty, so doctors, nurses, physical therapists,
Mm-hmm.
and really helping them with cash flow management. So, I mean, when you go into healthcare, you potentially have debts, and so helping
Yep.
understanding the best
Mm-hmm.
decisions to make around debt,
Okay.
spending, and saving.
Mm-hmm. So you help them with their budgeting as well.
Yes, yes, budgeting, but more kind of help them make the decisions around their budgeting, but
Mm-hmm.
help them understand with regards to what they value and
Mm-hmm.
how much they should be spending versus how much they should be possibly investing versus how
Mm-hmm.
much they should be putting away towards their debt.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of decisions when you start making some good money.
Mm-hmm.
Your life becomes a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more complex
Mm-hmm.
as you earn more money and
Yeah.
as you have debt in your financial
Mm-hmm.
picture. And so we help people make the best decisions around their financial situation.
Yeah. So about how much debt does so you niche on this type of people now, like it's kind of just went to the healthcare. So how much debt do they normally come to you? Like I'm sure most of it is student loan debts, probably, right?
A
So
lot of it is. So, I
yeah.
mean, it could
Uh-huh.
be as little as zero, of course, but then it could be as high. I mean, I've seen 200 to
Yep.
300,000.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that gets pretty overwhelming
Mm-hmm.
for individuals,
Yeah.
especially now when they're making essentially the same amount of dollars in income. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's the big decision is like, well, should I put all of my money towards my debt, or
Mm-hmm.
should I be putting some away toward, or how much should I be spending versus how much
Mm-hmm.
should I be saving towards my future, my short-term, medium versus long-term goals, including retirement.
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
and, and arguably the decisions that you make as a younger person have a greater impact on you in the long run than when you make those decisions as an older individual.
Mm-hmm.
As you can imagine, somebody in their 20s and 30s who are now making maybe $100,000 to $200,000 in income,
Mm-hmm.
the way that they spend that income and allocate those resources
Mm-hmm.
has a larger impact when they're 60 years old than when you're working with
Mm-hmm.
a 6-year old and they've essentially already created their nest. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so long and short of it is there's a greater impact when you make those good decisions early. It's the
Mm-hmm.
whole compounding effect.
Yeah. So how do you help them with their student loan debt normally? Do you help them is what are usually your advice? Like is it to consolidate them? What?
You know what? I mean, this is such a answer that I would say as a financial advisor. It would really just depends on the person's situation. I mean, looking at debt these days, it can look a lot of different ways,
Mhm.
with a lot of different terms with regards to the conditions of the debt. And so, depending on their debt load, maybe it makes sense to consolidate their debt. Maybe it
Mhm.
makes sense to pay off more right now.
Mhm.
Um, or depending on the terms of loan, potentially the rate of the loan, maybe it makes sense to hold on to that debt because there's a tax
Mhm.
deduction that is
Mhm.
earned with that debt, granted only to a certain extent, but to a certain
Mhm.
level, like there's a lot of decisions to be made, and it's always going to be specific to that particular person. But a lot of people always think debt is talking about this more with regard to mortgages.
Mhm.
A lot of people always want to pay down their mortgage, And
Mhm.
it's not always, sometimes it's okay to
Yeah.
keep your mortgage, especially in the
Yeah.
low interest rate environment that
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
in.
I'm all for keeping the 30-year mortgage and then
For
just
sure.
investing the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I was working with somebody who I think it was a 2.67% mortgage for 30 years.
Wow.
Like, what, that is
That's good.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah,
that
yeah.
thing. Ah! Oh, there we go.
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay.
but yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, okay, what does your RICP means in your designation?
Yeah, so that was actually the first designation I got back.
Mhm.
Oh man, I'm never good with dates, but I got that before my CFP, and it's
Okay.
a retirement income designation done through the American
Mhm.
College, and I
Mhm.
absolutely loved it. I mean, whoever
Okay.
is specializing in retirement income
Mhm.
planning,
Mhm.
I would absolutely recommend it. Michael Kitts is who you had on your
Mhm.
podcast or on this
Mhm.
live.
Mhm.
Is one of the instructors along with
Okay.
Wade Pfau. And Wade Pfau, I mean, I can't think
Oh,
any higher of either one of those
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
He was
Okay.
also an instructor, part of the
Okay.
RICP. And
Yeah.
so it just is really a super. So part of my CFP coursework, of course, there's retirement portion,
Mhm.
but the RICP just takes it to a whole nother level and does a real deep dive on retirement income planning.
Okay. So with retirement income planning, so if someone finished their CFP, do you recommend them to still take RICP if they really want to focus on retirement planning? Like what other more stuff did they teach you in RICP?
Yeah, so I mean, they go through like long-term care planning, which is
Okay.
huge. That was a big eye opener for me with regards to long-term care. They go deeper on Social Security planning. They'll
Okay.
go through the different ways to pull from or
Mhm.
get guaranteed income within
Mhm.
retirement. So they actually look at guaranteed income through annuities as well
Okay.
as pensions,
Okay.
and then as well as dynamic withdrawals from your portfolio throughout
Mhm.
retirement. So
Mhm.
they go pretty. They don't leave a leaf unturned. That's for sure.
Okay. What about reverse mortgage? Is that talk about too? Like how can that be part of your retirement income to the reverse
So
mortgage?
great question. And actually, you and I had a little bit of back and forth on this a couple months ago, I think. Um, I've never used a reverse mortgage throughout my practice, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I know that they're very there's validity and merit to the tool
Mhm.
when used within a financial plan. Granted, with so many different products that are
Mhm.
sold within financial
Mhm.
services, of course,
Yeah.
one can be oversold, a reverse mortgage, or maybe
Mhm.
it's used improperly. But I know when used appropriately, they can be great,
Mhm.
especially when the person is short on retirement assets.
Mhm. Got it. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay, so what do you mean by this? Like identifying biases within our financial decision making.
yeah. So um, I when I shared that idea, I was more or less talking about money scripts.
Mhm.
Essentially, these ideas that are ingrained within us, and it's really our beliefs, values, and the ways that, and our attitudes, the way that we spend money,
Mhm.
and we see it through a lot of our spending all the time.
Mhm.
And so I think with the way that we work with our clients is we help them identify those things that
Mhm.
are truly valuable to them. We help them take really a financial inventory of all their expenses and help them understand and prioritize what is the most meaningful to them. Um,
Mhm.
One thing with regards to money scripts that we see every once in a while is the idea of debt and looking at debt through a negative lens, especially
Mhm.
back in it was back in March. It was March. It was right after the bottom of the market
Mhm.
on March 23rd. We had clients coming to us. I had a couple of different clients coming to us saying, I have a good amount of money in my IRA.
Mhm.
They were below the retirement age,
Yeah.
but we're okay with taking the 10% penalty. We just don't want
Oh.
any debt at all. Um,
Oh.
and
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
we had some good back and forth conversation, and we actually we showed them through illustrative spreadsheets that it's really
Mhm.
not in your best interest to take the, I think it was like $300,000 from your IRA,
Yep.
pay the 10%
Yep.
penalty to then
Mhm.
pay your $300,000 mortgage that you
Mhm.
have a pretty
Mhm.
reasonable rate on, that you're also getting the tax deduction on.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then not to mention federal income tax plus whatever state income tax they're on. So $300,000 is a lot of money. This is gonna push you to like 37% tax bracket unfair. Like
Right?
37 plus 10%, that's 47% plus your state income tax. Like yeah,
Yeah.
half of that is gone. So yeah, I'm glad you talked them out
Oh
of
my
that.
gosh. And at the time, and they're great people. At the time,
Yeah.
they at the time they were okay with paying the 10% penalty, and I was like, no, I
Mhm.
promise you, that's not a good
That's
idea.
that's just one tax they're paying. I mean, penalty they're paying. Not the federal tax is gonna bite them, and the state income tax.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I know. Like, there's some, like famous financial gurus is all about, yeah, just pay your debt as much as possible. No debt, zero debt. Whatever you can be, cash broke, but then just like and then pay off your house so you don't have any debt. So I don't agree with that. Unless it's a very, I guess, emotional issue to actually just pay it off. But I would never use or recommend. So I mean, like, I will try to talk about the pros and cons of the retirement and just show them what's the impact. And then most of the time when they see the tax impact, they're like, okay, never mind, forget it.
yeah, yeah. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
okay.
pretty incredible though, and I actually
Hmm.
I think that one of the reasons why I'm always drawn to your page and seeing what you're looking into, because I love the soft side of financial planning,
Hmm.
the side where you're actually helping people almost like with psychological and emotional
Hmm.
challenges that they might be
Yep.
having around planning or around just their finances and
Hmm.
altogether.
Yep.
And so I always enjoy like looking at what you put out.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So understanding what we value as a consumer versus spending traps that don't increase happiness. So it sounds like you integrate a lot of like the emotional and behavioral piece too when you work with your clients as well, right?
Yeah, so especially when you're a high income or high earner,
Mm-hmm.
as mentioned, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make. And now you went from being with zero income or very little income,
Mm-hmm.
and now you have a good amount of income, and you want to spend a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And it's and it helps to understand what it is that you and your in your life and maybe your spouse and family value more than the Starbucks coffee. And people, I'm probably sure, like, like that's so stupid. It's saying bring it always back to a cup of coffee, but at the same time, if you look at that cup of coffee that might cost four
Mm-hmm.
dollars at Starbucks, and let's say you do that
Multiply.
yeah, you do that
Yeah.
4 days a week, and let's say you do
365 days
it
a year.
right? I mean, you do it like a good amount. It's just like, well, now I spent close to, let's say, $700 on coffee, and that sounds like a
Mm,
pretty fun vacation. And I know,
yeah.
speaking just about myself specifically,
Mm-hmm.
my wife and I enjoy traveling with our daughter, and it's something that we value more than not more than anything else, but it is something that we put high on our priority list. And so wherever it makes sense, places that we don't value as certain
Mm-hmm.
expenses, we try to cut, because
Mm-hmm.
we see if like all that accumulated expenses can be worth something later
Mm.
on.
Yeah, yeah. So I just did like, let's say $4 a day. Like, you say $4 a day in a year, that's almost $1,500. So that can at least take you
Right.
somewhere on vacation. So instead of like, so you have to decide which one's more important, Starbucks or vacation, or you can make your coffee at home and then go
Well,
on vacation.
it's so funny that you say that, because my wife just asked me the other day. She's like, "How much do you think we spend on coffee?" And I said, "Well, we get our coffee at Trader Joe's, and it's like $4 a bag. It's the best deal ever." And I'm like, "Well, maybe we
Oh,
go through
the
like
whole
a,
bag, like the grinded or ungrounded?
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like the medium the medium roast in the brown bag.
Okay,
It's
but
the
it's not.
Trader
You
Joe's
have to
brand.
grind it yourself.
No, no. Oh, I don't do that. I probably should. I'm not that much
Okay.
of a coffee snob.
Okay.
I just needed to wake up. But anyway, so I figured, told her, I'm like, well, the cost of coffee maybe is like around like $4 or $5 a
Yeah, yeah,
month.
yeah.
I'm like, it's
Uh-huh.
pretty small. She's like, oh,
Yeah,
she's
that,
like, I was
yeah. Yep,
she's
yep.
like, I was looking at this coffee subscription that costs like $20 a month, and I was like, well, I don't mind drinking our $4 coffee or $4 a month coffee. So I think we'll
Yeah,
pass
feed the
on
whole
that.
family, right? For one
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay, so let's talk about risk. Like, what exactly do you mean by risk here? And then how do we identify the risk? And then, how it can be mitigated with your personal and financial life?
Yeah. So I think that sometimes I know that working with a financial advisor can really help a person understand the risk within their life, and that those risks can look a lot of different ways. Is that your dog?
Yeah, I'm telling them to shut up while I'm mute. But then I'm like, do they really understand me? I think they hear something.
No, that's
Okay.
great. I love it. Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's risks all over the place, and one of the ones that we see often is making sure that people have a good safety cushion of cash
Yeah.
available to them. Of course, you heard it's 3 to 6 months of non-discretionary expenses, but it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing how people don't necessarily hold that much cash. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a risk there. Another one that we see quite
Yeah.
often, especially living in Southern California, and Tesla and SpaceX are pretty close. So we
Mm-hmm.
work with some individuals there, but so concentrated stock
Mm-hmm.
positions, whether that be through stock options and RSUs.
So,
And I
okay.
know, go ahead.
So how many percent in one stocks do you normally recommend? Like they don't go over the entire portfolio.
So it's a great question, and I would say that it's very dependent on the person,
Mm-hmm.
because if you show them how much that stock can fluctuate,
Mm-hmm.
it might mean one thing to maybe a single young person than it's going to be to somebody like even myself that has a family, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't lose half of my assets or
Mm-hmm.
good amount of like my savings because test something happened with Tesla,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's really good just to and it's tough advice to give sometime because it's everybody wants to hold on to that Tesla stock or SpaceX,
Amazon
and
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
SpaceX. I mean, SpaceX is it's pretty unique if you are able to get SpaceX stock. I mean, I would love some.
Yeah.
And so it's worth having a conversation, having that person understand that
Mm-hmm.
this is how much of your savings is within this particular
Mm-hmm.
stock, and let's just make sure that you understand what could happen in the event that something happens to that company, right? I
Mm-hmm.
always um, look back at like Enron. Remember when
Mm-hmm.
Enron
Yep. Yep.
went
Yeah.
bankrupt? When was
Yeah.
that, like 1991 or something? I mean, it left a lot of people, of course, holding the stock position within their portfolio. They were pretty bummed, but
Mm-hmm.
also so many people within Enron were multi-bazillionaires
Mm-hmm.
when Enron was doing well, and then they were virtually broke and homeless when they went
Mm-hmm.
bankrupt.
Yeah.
And nobody would have ever thought that would have happened. And of course, reporting has changed significantly since then. But the long and the short of it is you just want to be careful and make sure that you understand the risk that you're taking on. The other place that where we have conversations around is with regards to if you ever get sick or hurt. So looking at disability insurance, especially for
Mm-hmm.
doctors, because if they don't have the ability to practice, they
Mm-hmm.
might not be able to have the ability to create as much income for themselves and their family. And
Mm-hmm.
arguably, disability insurance is even more important than life insurance, because
Oh.
if you become sick or hurt and unable to work,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still alive, you're
Mm-hmm.
also an expense to the family that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Where the unfortunate situation, of course, where you pass away, it's a terrible situation, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, the expense of you is gone.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it's something to always consider,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you have a family. Um,
Yep, yep,
so
exactly. Disability, I mean, you're still alive, but you're disabled. Life insurance, and then, yeah, you're not there anymore, but you want to make sure that whoever's financially dependent on you has some money. So tell us more,
exactly.
like, what's your take on like insurance, life insurance, between term life and whole life, and then you can just explain to people what's the difference between a term life and whole life, and then what your philosophy is around that.
Sure. So I'm probably an advocate of term life insurance,
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Typically, whole life and universal life insurance, there is a greater expense to it, and typically people need, would say the majority of people need insurance in order to uh, protect their family in the event that their income is gone. So it's
Mm-hmm.
income replacement insurance. That's really what it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Yep.
And so term insurance can take care of that. The computer keeps on going
Mm-hmm.
dark. But term insurance can take care of that problem
Mm-hmm.
and solve it the
Mm-hmm.
easiest and the least expensive way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Where whole life and universal life insurance is what you would consider permanent insurance, and granted, it's going to be there for potentially forever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you're going to be paying an expense for it, and any cash buildup that you have within your universal life and whole life insurance is going to be probably at a pretty modest rate of return.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know, generally speaking, maybe somewhere between 2 and 4%. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then on top of that, it's going to cost that person more money. And typically, you would purchase whole life insurance because you want to make sure you leave a legacy when you pass away for your family.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes beyond income replacement,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and is more into the fact that, like, I want to make sure my family gets more than just income replacement, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you go into more details as to what the difference between term life, whole life, and universal life?
Sure. So term life is going to you're paying into term life in order for a specific period of time. I
Mm-hmm.
think it goes anywhere from 5 to 30 years. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a policy that goes beyond a 30-year policy.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, you pay into it. It's going to be the least expensive type of insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you have a 30-year policy, which I do. If
Mm-hmm.
I pay, let's say, what's my premium on my 30-year policy? Um, I can't remember. Let's say $300 for the year. I think it's more
Mm-hmm.
than that. At the end of the 30 years, assuming that I'm still alive, the policy just goes away. It's a 30-year term.
Mm-hmm.
The reason
Yeah.
why I would have it end at a 30-year period is because at that point in time, I should have enough assets for through retirement and to be able to support me and my family through the rest of time. So if I'm 34 years old right now, it's going to last me, that this term
Mm-hmm.
insurance is going to last me until right about 65 years old, at which point I should have plenty of assets to take care
Mm-hmm.
of me and my family.
Got.
And so, as I mentioned, that's going to be the least expensive type of insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, probably the insurance that is going to solve people's income replacement problem the best.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you get into universal life insurance and whole life insurance, we'll start with whole life insurance first. Whole life insurance is actually true permanent insurance where um, it is static. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
pay into it on a
Mm-hmm.
recurring basis, you build up a cash, there's a cash component that is built up over the course of time. And
Mm-hmm.
so long as you continue to pay your premium, that policy will always be in existence until the day that you pass away, pretty much guaranteed to be around so long as you pay
Mm-hmm.
into it.
Mm-hmm.
Universal life, and so now going back to like the middle option, which is universal life insurance, this is
Mm-hmm.
going to be more of a flexible option. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be typically, if I typically going to be a little bit less expensive than whole life, but a little bit more expensive than term insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You have potentially flexible premium payments, and that those premium payments could change depending on the sometimes the performance of the underlying policy. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like the index universal life policy, if you
Mm-hmm.
potentially if there's poor performance, you might need to pay a greater premium. Where if there's good performance, maybe you can pay a lesser premium.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
really the full
for term
spectrum of life
life, like
insurance.
you said, 30 years, right? For you, you're 33. So if you bought a 30-year term life right now, so it ends at 63. So what's going to happen when you end? Like, do you purchase another 30 years because you think you might live till 93 and then, or you just kind of stop with the term life insurance? Hopefully your kids are all grown up. No one's financially dependent on you anymore. So how's that typically work? Do you just extend it? But it's going to be very expensive by the time you're 63 to buy another term life insurance, though.
No, yeah, you're right. So typically you wouldn't extend it because you would
Mhm.
have saved up enough assets at a point. Because you want to
Got it.
remember, term life insurance is
Mhm.
income replacement. And so if I'm
Mhm.
65 years old, I'm probably
Mhm.
not going to be working
Got it.
very much longer. And
Mhm.
if in the event that I passed away, let's say at
Mhm.
65,
Mhm. Yeah.
I have a full nest egg, hopefully that I
Mm.
saved that
That
will
you're gonna
support
give to your beneficiary, right? Yeah. Mhm.
exactly that
Got it.
will
Okay.
end up supporting my family.
Got
So
it.
you always want to think of, and it's the challenge that life insurance is
Mhm.
solved with the best is income
Mhm.
replacement.
Got it. So the whole life insurance, you said it will it the policy will be in effect as long as you keep paying for it. What if it's COVID happened, they stop paying for it? What usually happens to the whole life policy?
Oh man, so you're going down a little bit of territory that if the person stops paying for the
Mhm.
policy,
Mhm.
then I believe that there is a forgiveness period where you can catch up
Mm.
on your premiums.
Mhm.
I'm honestly, I know enough about insurance, but I'm
Mhm.
not an expert.
Mhm.
Where I would, in the event that we really want to, especially with regards to
Mhm.
whole life insurance, being that I've
Mhm.
never used it within as a recommendation.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't. Yeah, I was just wondering, like, it's like, okay, just take into effect. What if you can't pay? Like, do you like lose out on that, cash value and stuff? So I can ask someone because that's actually a very interesting topic to talk about as well. On the because I
yeah,
get a lot of questions about life insurance too from my clients. So I usually, explain to them, and then most of the time, I'm an advocate of term life insurance, just like you,
yeah,
like other financial planners I know they're into term life and invest the rest, so I kind of follow into that philosophy as well, because like I try to analyze the whole life insurance. Like finally I get a schedule of the whole
yeah,
life insurance, like how much you pay, how much cash value you're receiving, and then they always
yeah,
tell you, the salespeople always tell, yeah, you only give like $200,000 over the course of the lifetime, and then you're getting $300,000, but they don't explain to you, it's like, what about the time value of money? What if I just
right.
invested? Like I would have make a lot of money. So when I did my own analysis, I'm like, if I invested that, I get like 5% rate of return, which is conservative. I'm making a lot more than $300,000. I'm like, why am I gonna invest that? But most people don't know how to do the analysis, so they just go by, oh wow, I only put 200,000, but I'm getting 300,000. So that's usually will sell them to buying life insurance right
Yeah,
away. Yeah,
typically, life insurance, generally speaking, is typically oversold.
yeah. By people who
It's
doesn't know finances in general. They're
right, and
salespeople.
you're right, right, and they
Yeah,
typically can use sales tactics, or excuse me,
yeah,
scare tactics in order to
yeah.
scare somebody from investing those dollars.
Mhm,
Like
mhm,
put it into a safe alternative
mhm,
that you'll never
mhm,
lose money. And
mhm,
but if you, yeah, so I mean that's something that I would disagree with. But
mhm.
so yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm big on that as well. So okay. So Matt, yeah. So if you have do you have any more last words for people? Like I guess like who yeah who wants who any financial advice here for people now with the time of COVID. So I don't know if you have noticed a difference among your clients, like with COVID happening. Well, at least now I think people are just used to the new life now, but we're still in COVID era, so I don't know how long that will affect us. Good thing the stock market hasn't crashed, so the stock actually has been good. The mortgage rate has
yeah,
gone down,
yeah,
but I think some people probably still struggle with their finances and stuff. Oh,
yeah,
okay, go ahead.
yeah.
Oh, you go ahead, and then someone has a question.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
So my advice to people is stick to the game plan.
Hmm.
Whenever something like COVID comes around, it's pretty scary. I mean, back in March, it was really weird, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was nervous about what was happening and what could happen to the market, what could happen to the economy.
Hmm.
But you see how, and this goes back to the beginning of the market. I mean, so long as you stick to your game plan, you build your house for the storm. You don't try to rebuild your house during the storm. So make sure you stick to the game plan that you created prior to COVID happening, right? And so that would probably be my best bet. Get your ducks in a row when everything is great. Don't wait to the last minute to get your ducks in a row.
Exactly. Because like I'm all about like if I think if you have your foundation finances, I actually wrote an article about this too. Like you don't have to be afraid of layoff of any of this that happens. If you know if you have a strong financial foundation, your budgeting is in place, you have the 6 months to 1 year, and then like I think
Yeah.
like I think if you have the skills, necessary skills, then you can at least do something to actually just make money or even like a temporary source of income till you actually find something. So if you really have that mindset and then motivation, then you can pass through that pain. So Kyle said with whole life you can withdraw the cash value if you need it or if you collapse the policy cease to pay. So but you why don't you say your opinion? I have my opinion about that.
You can withdraw the cash value if you need it, or collapse a policy, cease to pay. So yeah, I mean, there is a cash value component of whole life insurance.
Yeah.
Essentially, I think it's going to be tax free because it's essentially just return of the premiums that you paid into it. So
Plus it's
um,
post-tax money that you put in too, right?
right,
So
exactly.
yeah.
So Kyle's
Mhm.
right on with that.
Yeah. So it's like a
And then
Roth IRA almost, additional Roth IRA, because like whatever gains you make there is tax free, right?
correct, yeah. So a lot of people look at life insurance as a Roth alternative,
Mm-hmm.
which is not always a terrible way to look at it with regards to permanent life insurance as a
Mm-hmm.
Roth alternative.
Hmm.
Granted, it's an expensive Roth alternative, and
Yeah.
you're beholden to the insurance company.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and
Don't forget the
so,
fees. Like really
yeah,
look at the fees. How much are those? Like I think
yeah,
like commission sometimes you pay like 80% commission the first couple years. I'm just like, wow. When I look at the schedule, I was like, really? 80%? I'm just like, no,
yeah.
I better like put my money somewhere else.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite a bit. Actually, one part that I didn't mention is I was a consultant to advisors for quite some time, and that's where I really um, kind of learned financial services. I
Mhm.
was part of product distribution for variable annuities and index annuities, and in that
Oh.
world, they also sell life
Mhm.
insurance,
Mhm.
and so I'm very familiar with annuities specifically, but also pretty familiar with life insurance as well. And I remember seeing 110% commission of a first year premium.
Wow,
Right. I mean, it's
that is
pretty.
nuts.
Yeah. So I mean,
Oh,
if your first year premium is
yeah,
$100,
yeah.
the guy who's selling it to you would earn $110 in
Mhm. Yeah.
that situation.
Yeah, so everyone be aware of that commission, those salespeople. Don't trust the word of someone who's gonna get commission.
Yeah, it just get make sure you get good advice.
Yep.
Get good
Yeah.
advice, and try to get
Mhm.
the unconflicted advice, because there's
Mhm.
conflicts of interest
Mhm.
throughout financial services. And
Yep.
so make sure you ask the question is, where are the conflicts of interest? Can you tell me a little bit more about what I should be aware of that maybe I'm not aware of?
Mhm.
And especially if you're a CFP,
Yeah.
you have to. I mean, you have to no matter what, whether they ask you or not. But
Yeah.
you have to make sure that all conflicts of interest are on the table and the client understands exactly what is swaying the guidance that their advisor is giving them.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
Matt, like, how can people find you? I know. Okay, so I don't know if you want to share your Instagram handle. I was actually laughing at the
Yeah.
how unique your Instagram handle was.
Yeah, I've had it for quite some time. My Instagram handle is hen like the bird.
Oh,
What's funny is I
that's a
think
cute one. Yeah.
I was working at MetLife on their
Uh-huh.
as distribution of their variable annuities, and I'm speaking to
Yeah.
a bunch of financial advisors, and they're like, "What's your last name?" My last name is
Yeah.
Hen, so like the bird, but two N's.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, very very unique Instagram account. So okay, so where are you usually on social media? Do you hang out?
Oh man, I wish I was. I'm on. I cruise through LinkedIn. I love looking at LinkedIn. I probably should
Mhm.
become a little bit more of a poster and put some stuff
Mhm.
out there. I like commenting on some good
Mhm.
questions sometime and
Mhm.
some good posts. I like following
Mhm.
you, Christine. I'm on Instagram, but more I just watch people's cool pictures. I'm a
Yeah,
surfer,
it's
so I watch
all
a lot of surfers.
it's all pictures there on Instagram.
And then
Yeah.
my wife also is on Instagram, and we have a 1.5-year-old little daughter, and so she always puts daily stories on there. So I'm on Instagram
Uh-huh.
watching that. So I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram if you're looking for
Okay.
me.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'll tag you after this, and then so people can connect with you if they chose to. So yeah, thank you so much, Matt, for joining. I
Oh,
really appreciate
absolutely.
it. And then I had fun. Hopefully, you had fun too. So this
Yeah,
was my first experience. So thank you
yeah,
so much. All
absolutely. Thanks for
right.
having me.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
All right, see ya.